We've done it. After 5 years of planning, we've actually got planning permission. In this video, I'm going to tell you about the last 5 years trying to get planning on this house and an agricultural building in this rural setting. We spent 5 years battling with Burnley Borough Council's planning department, trying our best to get the right planning for this site. And I'm going to take you through everything that we've learnt and tell you everything to hopefully make it easier for you. 2.5 years ago, I stood here and we were just about to go into an appeal hearing. We'd put together all the information that we needed. We'd grouped together planning applications all into one planning hearing. And 2.5 years ago, I was stood here and we were just on the verge of getting into that planning hearing. So I'm just going to quickly recap on where we got up to get to that planning hearing, and then I'm going to tell you everything from the last video going forward to where we are now. So 5 years ago, we bought this derelict farmhouse that hadn't been touched for 10 years. It was an absolute mess on this site, and we come in, cleaned it up, and it was looking 100 times better. We applied for planning permission on the house to actually redevelop it and convert the barn into a living accommodation, which we got, and we're very happy about that. But after a few structural surveys of the building and some mine investigation work, we found that the building was actually very defective, and we had ground settlement issues, we had wall head separation issues and cracking on the building. So we decided that what we would need to do, and it would be a lot more cost effective, to actually demolish the house and put a new build on it in exactly the same planning format that we already had planning permission for. And we thought that this was going to be the best way to ensure that we got the planning permission, to make it exactly the same for what we already had planning for. But then Burnley Council had different ideas to that. So fast forwarding on a little bit from there, we then wanted an agricultural building, so we put in a permitted development notice to the council for an agricultural building. They rejected that. We put in a second notice to them. They also rejected that. And in the meantime, we had been cleaning up the site, doing some bits and pieces to kind of facilitate what's going to be later on. And then the council really didn't like that, so they served us with an enforcement notice, which we appealed and successfully won because there were some issues with the filing of the enforcement notice. If you go and watch video 2, we go into further details about that. And then they decided to serve us with another enforcement notice straight after that one was thrown out. And basically that's where we got up to in the last video. We're kind of getting ready to go to the appeal. With the enforcement notice, we then linked the house rebuild into that, and then we also linked in an agricultural building application into that, so that they would all be heard exactly at the same time, and we could get a final decision on what we were doing with the applications. Back in the last video, we were up here on this top plateau. We were going to put our agricultural building here, and if you'd have noticed in the last video, we had a block retaining wall around here ready for the agricultural building to go in. And on the enforcement notice, this was one of the controversial items, and the planning inspector actually found for this item in favour of the council and said that we needed to take the wall down and put the landscape back how it was. So we've now taken the wall down and we've put this mound back. We still need to put a bit more material back in here and soil it up, but this is one of the things that we have had to reverse what we've done. There was only the retaining wall behind us here and the concrete road, which the planning inspector had said that we'd kind of done what we shouldn't have done. But everything else to do with the tree planting and the containers were all absolutely spot on, and they had no issues with that. So this is where the ag building's going. In the appeal, the planning inspectorate decided that the upper plateau was not a correct position for the agricultural building, and they looked at farmsteads around the area and decided that they are more linear than actually levelled, if you will. So they wanted the farmstead here to copy what is locally around and have it linear in size and in scale and on the same level. So we were always going to put a building here, but we kind of didn't want the agricultural building to be on this level near the house. We thought it would be better higher up and a bit out of the way for the bit of smell that's going to come off it and the animal noises. So, but we're absolutely chuffed to bits that we've got it here. When the planning inspectorate decided that it wasn't, they weren't happy with it there, we put the application in again to have it here with a stable block on it now as well. So we have a 15-metre stable block and a agricultural building on the side of that. Altogether the building is 40 metres by 12 metres, which kind of works out around about 5,000 square foot. So we're super pleased with that, and it's exactly what we wanted right from the beginning, back when we put us first permitted development in 5 years ago. So why it takes 5 years to then get an agricultural building that we needed is, I don't know, there's no answer to it, but we had to put in a landscape assessment. So we're going to be doing some tree planting up behind the building and as well on the front of the building to mask it within the landscape. They've made us do every little bit of information and survey and report that we needed to do. Or we didn't need to do it. There's agricultural buildings that's gone up locally that have got a lot less reports in than ours, but we're just super happy that we've got it. So the council actually refused the rebuild or the new build house application, and the way that they fought it in the appeal was to say that it was actually bigger in size than what we already had planning permission for, which we then spent 4 months trying to convince the council before the appeal hearing that this wasn't the case, and we sent them revised drawings, revised calculations, and nothing we could do would appease them of this. And that's how they went into this hearing, trying to fight it, saying that we were building it bigger and taller than it was, and it was totally not the case. When we were at the appeal, the planning inspector actually decided that the house rebuild, or the new build on the house, was actually valid, and the council didn't really mitigate anything that we were putting forward, and the idea that we were building something that was bigger than we already had planning for was thrown out. The planning inspectorate ruled in our favour and actually passed the house application, which we were absolutely over the moon with. After we had the appeal, we put in for full costs against the council for the house at the appeal. We couldn't put in costs for the enforcement notice because that was not ruled in our favour, and we got that in a separate application. And the enforcement notice, we only got part of that. It was kind of split 50-50. We had to, like we've just shown there, fill in the concrete block wall and take that down, and the concrete road has to come out. But then we won for the tree planting, so we can plant all those trees and link the ancient woodland together, and we can continue having the containers on. The planning inspectorate said that on a farmstead construction site, you are allowed to have containers to enable and facilitate construction, and the council was arguing to say that it was outside of the red planning boundary, which you have to put on the planning maps. The inspectorate said no, they're quite right to put facilities and store materials outside of that red boundary, because all farm developments do it, and it would be unfair if we had to stop with inside that red boundary. So what we've got now is a full cost award for the house and a full cost award for the first enforcement notice. So all the preparation work for the enforcement notice is now fully reclaimable. All our legal expenses, our time, planning consultants, legal barristers, architects, surveyors, everybody that was involved from our side, we can reclaim 100% of that cost. And same again for the house, we can fully reclaim all the costs for the planning hearing and all the work that was prepped up once the council had decided that they weren't going to allow it. So now Burnley Council have got a big bill coming their way. We're just working up all the costs at the minute and putting all the costs together and the cost claims together for that. This just seems a massive waste of time. For the last 5 years we've been battling with Burnley Council trying to get this, which we thought was a very sensible scheme, to reuse this residential building and this farmstead so that we can actually live here, we can farm here. The farming enables us to look after the land, look after the dry stone walls, the fences. And it was a brilliant proposal put forward in a cracking area that wasn't too invasive, that was just bringing the farmstead up to current working conditions, if you will. And after 5 years and a horrendous amount of money, we can now rebuild this house and we can have a stables here and we can have this agricultural building here to house our cattle, which is fantastic. For us, it just seems that the planning departments are purposely trying to, I don't know what they're going to get out of it. You know, they've dragged this and kicked this down the road for 5 years, cost us a lot of money, and now they've cost themselves a lot of money because they've had barristers at the hearing, which they've had to pay for, all the time and effort they've been fighting us, and now they're going to have our costs then put onto them, when 2 or 3 meetings we could have sorted all this out 3-4 years ago and we would be living here now. And it seems like the most backward position that the council takes, and there is no reasoning for it whatsoever. It is not as if we were ever going to try and overdevelop this site or turn it into something it's not. We're always going to put it into a cracking farmstead. And you'll see over the next series of videos on our YouTube channel, we're going to film this day by day, how we're going to clear the site up, demolishing the house, doing all the ground stabilisation works for the mining, doing all the foundations and the full build. So it's going to be long and a lot of videos over the next, I would probably say, about 2 years. We're going to do the house first, then we're going to crack on with the stables and the agricultural building. So you're going to be able to see it all on YouTube, and hopefully you'll think that it is not outside of what's beautiful around this area, and it's all going to match in lovely. So what have we learnt, and how can our journey, our 5-year journey down this planning road, how can we help you with your planning issues or potential planning issues if you're looking to put planning in? I think one of the most important lessons that I've learnt on this journey is you need the right people behind you in a team. Planning consultants, legal representation, surveyors, landscape architects. You need a good team who have got experience, and you are better off paying a little bit more and getting somebody who has had experience, if you're going to have difficulties anyway, who has experience in hearings, whether that's written or actually in person. And the planning consultants that we got were absolutely fantastic and worth the weight in gold. I wouldn't be afraid of actually being not ruthless, but not buttering up to the planners. If your plan application is going to go through, and some of them absolutely sail through, piece of cake, minimal reports, minimal paperwork. I've seen, and I've done a lot of research on this for the ones locally, and some of them are just basic drawings. And I'm like, how have you got that through planning? So I think in an early stage, you can kind of get a gauge of how the planning system is going to work in your favour or not. And I think if it's not going to work in your favour, I wouldn't kind of work on the scenario that if you be really nice to the planning officer, that they're going to pass it, because they're not going to pass it. I think as well, if you're going to do something in a rural setting like this, one of the key points that they always kept coming at us was justification for the agricultural building. So we have got livestock, we've got sheep on, probably about 30 sheep. We've got cows on, 2 of which we're just doing in this field to my left here that have just calved. So we haven't tried to put an agricultural building in without justification. We made sure that we had justification for the agricultural building, and we had set up a farm, because this is what we want to do anyway, so it's not as if we're just doing it for the building. This is what we want to do in this farmstead anyway. But it's catch-22, you need a justification before you can have the agricultural building, so you need the cows and the animals before you can put the planning in for the agricultural building. So you have to get everything lined up and be thinking a year, 2 years, 3 years ahead of where you need to be. And if I was doing this again now, I would look at putting everything together, landscape assessment. If I was putting an application together again for another agricultural building, I'd make sure I nailed all my justification. I got a good agricultural surveyor to do a justification statement for the building. I would do a landscape assessment anyway if it's in a nice rural setting. I would also do you got to do your BNG now, which you'll probably have to do. Get a good ecologist on site as well to do that, and put everything together that you could possibly think of and bundle it all together in an application. It might cost you a little bit more, but it's well worth it, because it just shows that you are putting a good solid application together. And this would be the exact same for the house. I would landscape assessment, every survey possible, and really wrap it up into something that's really watertight and you're covering all angles. Drainage is the big one now, flood risk assessments. So again, get that done before you even put your application in, because it shows that you're working with professionals, and a good professional should advise you on all the reports that are needed. Ecology, we talked about in our last video, the wildlife tower we've put in. That's absolutely buzzing now with wildlife. We've got barn owls in there, we've got barn owl chicks in there. And if I was putting my house application in again, I would have that absolutely watertight. I'd have all my ecology surveys in there. I'd have all my architectural drawings all pinned up, do my drainage reports and schemes in with the application. And a good consultant should tell you of all the information that you need to put in to the application and make it absolutely watertight, so that the planning authority know that you've done a lot of research, they know that you've put a lot of information in there, and it gives them confidence, I think, that you kind of know what you're going to do and it's going to be right. Don't be afraid of putting an appeal in. If you get a decision that is a decline, I would say go to appeal. If you firmly believe that the development's right for the area and right for the property, just do the appeal. I've been kind of, when we were going through the appeal process and the time it's taken, I was really kind of miffed in the cost and the time that we spent on it. But looking back on hindsight now, it's been really good, because I've learned so much about the planning process and all the appeal processes as well. We've done a written statement appeal, and we've done an actual in-person hearing as well. So we've had the best of both, and I've learned so much from it. So don't be afraid of going through that appeal process. It's not that difficult, and a good planning consultant will hold your hand and, like for us, do it for you. And the planning inspectorates are actually quite good at making a decision, unlike the local planning authority that cannot make a decision to save a life. These guys come in, bang, 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 they listen to all the evidence quickly. It's super fast. I don't know how to do it. Get it round in the head, how it's all going together. They'll come on site, do a site visit, and bang, you get a decision. And like for us, the planning inspectorate said, you can't put your ag building up there, but you have got justification for it. You do need it. So if you put it down on that lower plateau area near the house, I don't see an issue with it. So then when we resubmitted our agricultural building down on that lower plateau with the stable block on, the council really had nowhere to go, because the planning inspectorate during the appeal process had said, you have got justification for it, you can have it, you just need to put it somewhere else down on the same level of the house. So we did all that, and how is the council planning department going to get around that? Because it's already been determined. So if they would have turned it down, we would have gone to appeal again, which we would have won, because the last planning inspectorate said that it's all permissible down there, and we would have won cost again. So the council really didn't have anywhere to go. They were kind of semi-backed into a corner, knowing that we would go for a third appeal and potentially win it. So that's how we managed to get the agricultural building. And same with the house, it's all been stamped off, and the conditions on the enforcement notices as well, we've complied with all them. So yeah, the planning process, you are going to struggle with it. It is not dealing with rational people like me and you. These people are so down the line, and I think probably 20-30 years ago, these people in the local planning office had a bit of gumption about them, if you would, and they would be able to, you know, decide things and say, that's not needed, don't bother, do it like this, do it like that, bang, stamp, you get it or you don't get it. Whereas now, you know, whether they're just fresh out of university, or, you know, they haven't got much life experience or much private public sector experience, and yeah, they just basically follow the rules. And the planning policy says you've got to do this, you've got to do that, you've got to do this. And the problem is the planning policy is a lot of crap. It's just so deep with information. You could spend years trying to cross every line on that and put a tick box next to everything. And these planning officers just need to take that and say, look, is this a good development for the site? Is it a good development for the area? Is it going to add benefits to the people who own the buildings and the properties and the land or not? And that's it, you know, make the decision on that. Yeah, do all the reports. We've got to do the flood risk assessments, we've got to do the BNG now and all the other stuff, but that's quickly done. It's just getting these people to make a decision, and nobody in the planning departments wants to make a decision. That is what you're dealing with. So you need to set yourself out, set your stall out, and know that that is going to take time for these guys to make a decision. But you need to help them make the decision by putting all the correct information in there and then gently pushing them along to get that decision out of them. So yeah, we're super happy we've got it all now. It's been a long journey, and a lot of our friends have said, I don't know how you've managed to cope for 5 years trying to get this done and over the line, but persistence pays off. And I think, you know, anybody who's putting planning in, you will get what you want in the end if you're persistent enough and you kind of keep pushing and pushing and pushing. So yeah, we're super happy with it. Like I said, we're going to get all our development on YouTube. We're going to film everything right up to moving in, basically. We're going to get the house done first, get the ag building done, and you're going to be able to see how we do it and what we do, and probably a load of mistakes that we make and everything like that. But it'll be a good journey. So hope you enjoyed this video, hope you learned something from it, and yeah, be super chuffed if you can like and subscribe. Always makes it worthwhile, and follow us on the next 2 years while we get this development done. See you soon.